Hey there, I'm Spiderloft. I love the Transformers franchise. It's a franchise that I grew up with. Back then, I just saw cool robots getting into fights, but as I've grown up, I see the intricacies of the stories and its plots. The cause of the Decepticons is one that I myself do believe in, of the oppressed rising up against their oppressors, all for the sake of equality. However, that cause was corrupted by its leader, and sometimes founder in some continuities. This is a video on a bot who staged the greatest uprising in all of Cybertronian history, dragging the entire planet into an eternal war.
The age of crimes has ended! No more false prophets! Follow me, and you will never again be deceived! Rise up! I am Megatron!
This video itself will be covering 3 separate continuities and their iterations of Megatron. The continuities that will be covered are Transformers Animated, Transformers Prime, and Transformers 1. Another quick preface, but this video will contain spoilers for Transformers Animated, Transformers Prime, and Transformers 1. If you don't want to be spoiled on any of the media shown, then go watch them before continuing on. Out of all the Transformers shows that I've watched, Transformers Animated is the latest piece of Transformers media that I've actually watched. I binged through all 3 seasons of the show in about a week, sometime in May of this year, but my memory really isn't that good, so for this video I went ahead and rewatched the entirety of Transformers Animated in order to write this section of the video. Transformers Animated's portrayal of Megatron is one of the ones that doesn't follow the conventional norms of Megatron's backstory. In fact, we never actually get anything dedicated to showing Megatron and his past. All we know about him is that he's a warlord banished from Cybertron following the war between the Decepticons and the Autobots. We know that he lost the war. It was described as such in the very first episode of the series.
Ever since we drove him off Cybertron, the cons have been wandering the periphery.
After being banished, Megatron and the Decepticons go into hiding, biding their time in order to return and reclaim Cybertron for themselves. Megatron himself is a character notorious for his ruthlessness.
Megatron? As in the cruel and vicious Decepticon leader who eats Autobot protoforms for breakfast?
While his ruthlessness is a very large trait in his character, he's also shown to be manipulative and frequently shows the ability to adapt to bad situations. First of all, and his most immediate characteristic, Megatron, first and foremost, is a conqueror, a warmonger. He has very little hesitation in attempting to terminate Autobots and even Decepticons alike. One of the biggest moments in the Season 1 finale was Megatron trying to terminate Starscream after the former discovered the latter was a traitor. Megatron actually kills Starscream several times. Every single time, Starscream just inexplicably shows up again.
Is that the best you could do, Starscream? And to think you actually believed you could take over as leader of the Decepticons. You couldn't lead a parade. United by a common purpose. The time has come for us to put aside our differences and act as one under my undisputed leadership. Only then can we cast off the shackles of Autobot oppression. Working together, we can raise up our glorious empire once more and crush all who stand in our way.
Megatron also displays an affinity for lying and manipulating people in order to get whatever he wants. Although this has become a bit more common in fiction, it's still worth pointing out to show the evil in someone. The biggest plot point for the entirety of Season 1 is based entirely around Megatron's manipulation of one of the Autobots' closest friends.
You on your knees, human scum, and bow before the great and glorious Megatron, supreme leader of all Decepticons.
Decepticons? But you told me you were an Autobot.
And I hated every moment of that humiliating charade. But no more.
What have I done?
He's also shown lying to the Constructicons and all in order to bring their allegiance over to the Decepticon cause, only doing so in order to take advantage of their skills in order to further his plan to reclaim Cybertron.
You tricked us! You Decepticons are the scum of the universe!
What? Who told you that?
A friend, Bulkhead.
And you believed him?
Well, sure. He's our friend.
And did your friend tell you how his Autobot kind have oppressed us? Driven us from our rightful home? Oh, they may come across as complete imbeciles, but Autobots are cunning, ruthless, unforgiving.
Finally, this Megatron shows that he is able to turn a bad situation into one that benefits him. This also does tie into his affinity for manipulating others into aiding him. First of all, he finds himself entirely immobile in the lab of Isaac Sumdac, using his knowledge and skills in order to gain Sumdac's trust, which leads to him completely recreating and rejuvenating Megatron into a stronger state than before. And as I said, that is the biggest plot point in Season 1. And when it comes to Starscream being terminated multiple times by Megatron, Starscream tries to terminate Megatron again with an armada of clones, but the both of them become stuck in the middle of space together when Omega Supreme is transwarped over to where they are. The two bots, who very actively don't like each other, teamed up in order to seize control of Omega Supreme, and even after that, continue working with one another in order to further their goals, although Megatron does go and stop Starscream from being able to challenge him again. In Transformers Animated, Megatron is ruthless. He is a Decepticon first and foremost, deceiving and manipulating the bots around and seizing whatever opportunities present themselves, all in order to further his own goal. But most importantly of all, this Megatron is absolutely pure evil, without a single redeemable aspect to him whatsoever. However, this is one of the few unsympathetic Megatrons around across various continuities. As Transformers finds its series-wide canon, these ruthless warlords stop being written in exchange for characters of humble origins fighting for a noble cause. Transformers Prime is one of the two Transformers series that I grew up with. I love this show, and I love what they did with Megatron, and how they showed off his character. Transformers Prime itself is a part of the Aligned Continuity, which is a series of various different Transformer media, all interconnected within one shared universe. This is the continuity I know the most about, mostly due to videos made by other Transformers content creators, such as Emperor Kumquat. Although I know the most about Transformers Prime's lore out of any other continuity, I still took the liberty to rewatch the show and movie. In fact, as I'm writing this part of the script, I had finished watching the entirety of Transformers Prime the day prior. This Megatron is one of the ones who have a sympathetic backstory. He was an unnamed miner, a caste at the very bottom of Cybertronian society, forced to sacrifice Spark and Servo, all for the sake of allowing those given a higher place in society to live comfortably. Fed up with the harsh treatment that he and his fellow miners had to endure, Megatron fought as a gladiator in the pits of Kaon, earning himself a name and gaining a platform to spread his message. He befriended the Iacon clerk Orion Pax, and the two of them worked together in order to reform Cybertron. However, these two would separate their ways, as Megatron feels betrayed by Orion, working his entire life towards the good of those from a similar position as himself, only to be overlooked in favor of someone of a more noble background. Megatron formed the faction known as the Decepticons, and eventually led to the beginning of the Great War. As Megatron continues fighting in the war, his ideology shifts as he resorts to more and more extreme methods in order to achieve victory. The war itself changes Megatron from a revolutionary looking to reform Cybertron to a power-hungry warlord seeking control by any means necessary. His conquest for power leads him so far to the point where he kills his own planet. When it comes to Megatron having this backstory where he is a freedom fighter, it's used in order to show how Megatron has corrupted a noble cause all for his own gain, alongside how the Decepticons under Megatron have become worse than those who initially oppressed them. This idea of individual freedom is further discarded once Megatron creates a mass-produced legion of nameless and faceless soldiers known as Viacons. These Viacons are treated as nothing more than just cannon fodder, and are the ones responsible for a majority of the physical operations carried out by the Decepticon faction, and are killed in droves every single fight. Alongside such, he's shown defiling the Cybertronians who had died during the war, through his use of Dark Energon to resurrect the fallen and use them as a legion of soldiers.
Arise, my legions!
His usage of Dark Energon in general is a show that he will use any and everything at his disposal. He even used Toxin to create a chemical weapon against the Autobots.
During the war for Cybertron, Megatron figured out a way to refine raw Toxin, turn it into a weapon of mass destruction. I witnessed an entire unit wiped out by the sickness.
Megatron shows himself as an individual who puts his own selfish power over others. Whenever he has an issue, he uses his strength and violence in order to subjugate his own allies and make sure that he stays at the command of his troops. This is mostly shown throughout Transformers Prime via his abuse of Starscream. He uses his very own second-in-command as a punching bag throughout the story, using Starscream as a warning to the rest of the Decepticons of what would happen to them if they were to defy his commands. It's further shown when he blasts a hole through Dreadwing and even uses super weapons to obliterate the US Army. Megatron isn't just a ruthless warlord vying for power and control. Despite what I just said, Megatron doesn't exclusively use brute force for everything. He is shown a few times to use manipulation and deception in order to get what he wants. Megatron, while being a gladiator and warlord, was also a politician before the war had started. He was able to sway others not by his might, but by his words and his ideals. The most important showcase of this was in the first few episodes of Season 2, where he uses his former friendship with the Optimus Prime, who had lost his memories at the end of Season 1, to bring him to the Decepticon side and get him to do extremely important work that Megatron deems necessary in order to destroy the other Autobots. He also has a moment at the start of Season 3, where he is on a call with Agent Fowler telling him that the Decepticons mean to coexist with humanity.
Point taken. Now what do you want from us?
Nothing, Agent Fowler. The Decepticons mean no harm to humanity. We merely desire a place to call home.
No offense, Megatron, but I'm having a tough time swallowing all this, since you seem so bent on plastering humankind under molten steel.
Agent Fowler, I admit that war brings out the worst in me. But the conflict with the Autobots is now over, and our quarrel has never been with your kind. Now that the one true enemy of the Decepticons is no more, my only wish is to coexist on this planet with the human race. Peacefully. Together, Agent Fowler, I believe that you and I can make that dream a reality.
You too have a way with words, Master. I almost believed you myself.
Megatron is shown to not care about coexisting with humans. In fact, he actively states that he intends on ruling Earth and Cybertron together. When it comes to Transformers Prime, Megatron is a character who is driven by his thirst for power, for control. He will use any and everything at his disposal in order to keep himself at the top and to make sure that everyone knows that the Decepticons are his and only his to rule. Transformers 1 is one of the best pieces of Transformers media I have ever watched. Rewatching it for this video was just an absolute joy. I let myself rewind a few times just to spot legacy characters based on their G1 designs, and this film was an absolute spectacle. From its writing to the homages I caught onto as someone who grew up with watching some of the 80s cartoon. The world was amazingly well made, and it felt lived in, but all that I could say about Transformers 1 has probably already been said to death. This film was well acclaimed by fans of the Transformers series, and rightfully so. I loved it, pretty much everyone I know loved it, and it was very well acclaimed. It sucks that it's most likely not going to get a sequel, but here isn't the time nor the place for that discussion. I know I gave a spoiler warning at the introductory section of this video, but I would say that if you haven't watched Transformers 1, go watch it first. I'm certain that you'll enjoy the film. The past of Megatron and Optimus is the focal point of this entire film and its plot. Megatron's story is one of freedom and how anger and hatred can take over someone. The movie begins with D16 and Orion Pax, two cogless miners and best friends. While Orion Pax is an optimistic, naive, and oftentimes impulsive bot who has no trouble breaking the rules and marching to the beat of his own drum, D16 is content with his position in life. He believes that he is contributing to his home and to the Cybertronians of Iacon. He idolizes Sentinel Prime and wants to gain his recognition. Everything he does for the first half of the movie is done for that reason. He wants this validation, to be praised by the bot he holds in such high regard. However, this view is shattered when he learns of Sentinel Prime's betrayal of the Primes and his servitude to the Quintessons. D16, in the span of a couple minutes, learns that his entire life had been a lie, that Sentinel Prime had subjugated Iacon for his own selfish gains.
What truth? That I plucked the cogs from your newborn chests? Forced you to mine so that I could pay off the Quintessons and live like a king? None of that matters. Because the truth is what I make it!
He feels the sense of betrayal that everyone else who had of it felt. And when it comes to how he responds to the truth, however, he follows a different path. This broken trust is when D16 starts to incrementally be replaced with Megatron. He decides that he will never listen to another leader again, that he will change Cybertron by himself if he needs to. This viewpoint is further exacerbated when he meets the High Guard, hearing of the ideal of the strength of one bot over another being all that matters.
The idea of a unified Cybertron is a myth. All that counts is the strength of one bot over another!
He challenges Starscream, the leader of the High Guard, and showcases his might and power, damaging Starscream's voice box in the process. Managing to rally the High Guard with his display of strength, he manages to unite them into a frenzy.
This is the last time I show mercy! Decide, right now! You can stay here in hiding, bowing before your pathetic leader, or follow me as we march on Iacon and I take down Sentinel once and for all!
However, this is short-lived, as members of the High Guard, himself and B-2127, are captured and brought before Sentinel. There, D16 is beaten down as he shows his defiance to Sentinel, standing up tall in the face of authority he's powerless against, preferring to die rather than kneel before Sentinel to save himself. D16 doesn't care about showing Iacon the truth, even if he says he does. All he cares about is killing Sentinel, even after Sentinel has been defeated. His lies exposed and broadcast to all of Iacon. He continues hunting Sentinel, hell-bent on killing him. This causes him to shoot through his best friend, killing him with his blast. Torn between his revenge and saving his best friend, he lets his anger, rage, and hatred consume him, letting Orion die so that he can kill Sentinel. D16 tears Sentinel in two and declares himself as the new leader of Cybertron in quite possibly the best scene in the entire film.
No more false prophets! Follow me, and you will never again be deceived! Rise up! I will lead us all into the future! Megatron!
I rewatched that specific scene like 15 times now, and I love it a lot. He declares to everyone in Iacon who he is, giving himself his own name, not letting others carve out his path. With that, he gets the High Guard to follow him and begin to destroy Iacon, alongside those who he saw as followers of Sentinel. His rampage is only stopped by the newly primed and resurrected Optimus Prime. After a massive battle between Megatron and Optimus, their friendship reduced to scraps as they split ways, now as enemies. There are people who do consider Megatron's actions to be justified when they really aren't. His main goal from the get-go was pure unbridled revenge. Earlier in the movie, he stated that humility and presence are good qualities of a leader. Megatron is shown to lack humility. He sees the corruption of the current leader, and once he gets a taste for power himself, deems himself fit to rule instead of them, declaring himself as the savior of Iacon.
I will lead us all into the future!
He claims that he must be the one to kill Sentinel.
What are you doing?
It's over, D. Everyone in Iacon knows the truth.
So do I! He took everything from us! I have to do this!
No, you don't.
And believes that Sentinel's lying is a personal slight against himself.
Leave it. Sentinel lied to my face.
Megatron is a character who shows how anger and rage corrupt someone, how they can influence someone's actions. Megatron was finally given the ability to carve his own path, to make his own choices, but he let himself be overtaken by anger, forsaking his friends and all of those close to him, all for the sake of his revenge. And even after having enacted his revenge, his hatred couldn't be satisfied, and his destruction spread even further.
We were given the power to change our world, and you chose to destroy it. Just like Sentinel, you have betrayed Cybertron and its citizens. And you betrayed me.
Megatron has seen a plethora of different versions. At times he's a hero, a traitor to his own cause, a bot trying to reform in spite of his history, a warrior forged to conquer, or a hero broken to the point of insanity. But what remains constant is that Megatron will forever be a fan favorite character, who will persist regardless of how many versions of him are made. In these three continuities alone, his evil is shown through various lights of tragedy and treachery. He fights for control, conquers for power, and reduces everyone in his way to sparkless husks. He is Megatron. It's been about 2 months since I last uploaded a video. Fret not, I was using my time wisely by playing Persona 5 Royal and Terraria. I was also rewatching Transformers Animated, Prime, and 1 for this video. I loved getting to rewatch the material, mostly because I just love Transformers. I have to say that the voice work done by all three voice actors was phenomenal. Each one feels personalized to fit within different stories and villain archetypes. Each of their performances are memorable, and some lines just really stick. Now, if you enjoyed watching the video and listening to me speak, please consider giving the video a like and subscribe to the channel. It would genuinely mean a lot. If there's anything you want to say, go ahead and leave a comment. If you're interested in any more of my videos, I made a video on Tarn about 2 months ago if you're interested in more Transformers content, but I also make videos on video games and eventually other bits of media that I enjoy. But with all that being said, I am Spiderloft, and I will see you all in the next video.
At the speed of light.